Hello and welcome back to Music Nuggets. Today's nugget is all about inversions, and you can see that the title starts with a question. How many chords can you hear? It's obviously a trick question of sorts. It's really just 4 chords and one slightly different chord at the end to turn around. It's a 2-5-1. So it's a D minor 7 to a D diminished 7, which really functions as a G7 with a flat 9. So if I put a G on the bass there, you can hear that that's just an extended dominant chord if you're used to those things. And then it's a 1 chord, C major 7. And then to turn around, you've got a borrowed chord from key of G and F sharp half diminished. So it's just that repeating over and over. And you can hear that, especially if I go for the G7 instead. If that just repeats, it's really blocky and basic sounding. And like an amazing way to spice up any chord progression, especially if it's going to repeat, is bring inversions in. Try and get some sensible voice movement in. Try and get some satisfying stepwise voice movement in. So there are obviously so many different voicings in there. There's 4 chords, but there's like 30 different voicings. So how do you remember all this? Or how do you find a way in? How do you start learning this stuff? My simple solution really was to learn 1 7th chord first. In this case, I've mapped up C major 7. And then just think about what note you need to change to progressively move through the different 7th chords. So the only difference between a major 7 chord and a 7 chord is the 7th. The only difference between a 7 chord and a minor 7th chord is the 3rd. And then the only difference between minor 7 and minor 7 flat 5 is the 5th. And then you could go one further on a diminished 7th chords, and it's the 7th again that changes. So if you do that, you've got a much simpler way of visualizing how to start forming these chords. And then after a while it becomes second nature. You can just see which voice is which within the chord. And then you can start seeing which one can function for another one, and it really opens up and like completes your picture of how you visualize the fretboard. I think it's super important for serious guitarists, and it really like makes a difference between bad comping and good comping, and bad composition and good composition. There are a lot of YouTube lessons out there about zombie chords and stuff like that, and the death of harmony and things like that, and I tend to agree with it. I think good voice movement is what's missing from a lot of songs, and what sets a good song apart is good voice movement. So a way in with this then. First of all, what we're using here for all these inversions, there's a little bit of like misunderstanding behind these sometimes too. These are drop 2 voicings of all these chords. And it's kind of the most common thing that we use as guitarists, but maybe don't really know that we're using them, or if we know that we're using them, we don't really know what that means. And it's because the name's kind of ambiguous. It means that you're taking the second voice of a chord. First of all, let's discuss what a C major 7 is. If you were just using root 3rd, 5th, 7th voicing, so a standard kind of piano voicing, then the simplest way to play a C major 7 would be root, 3rd, 5th, 7th. Now, if some of this has seemed really mysterious to you so far, then maybe a good thing to do would be to go back and watch my chord construction video. You're going to learn everything you need to know about how to do this, if you don't get this, from that video. So go check it out. I'll put a link down below. So yeah, root, 3rd, 5th, 7th. And that's just voice for voice. You know, you're going from the lowest voice to the highest voice consecutively, and it's sensible. It's what you would say is like a piano voicing. And that's movable. You can have a C sharp or a D flat. You can have a D major 7. But when you start trying to invert those, it's not really as interesting, and also the spacing can get really wide. The inversions sound really interesting, and a lot of the times quite sparkly, like when I was using this voicing of a C major 7. You're not going to get that from using voice for voice, low to high voicings. This comes from using drop voicings. And drop 2 voicings are basically, if you were to take that root 3rd, 5th, 7th, root 3rd, 5th, 7th, you take the second voice, so this is where the drop 2 part comes from, second voice in the chord, and you drop it. Guess what that means? You put it up the top. So I think that's where a lot of the confusion stems from for guitarists. We're used to terms like drop D and drop tunings and drop this and that. So the 3rd actually goes up the top. So you see in the root position, C major 7 here, 3rd fret, it goes root, 5th, 7th, 3rd. So it's like that 3rd from here has been plonked on the end. And that's how all of these work. Even when you invert them, they are still drop 2 voicings of the inversions. So, you know, root, 5th, 7th, 3rd. When you go to the next voicing, you would expect, if it was a piano voicing, to go 3rd, 5th, 7th, root. But it goes 3rd, 7th, root, 5th. So it's like the 5th from here has been plonked up the top. And it keeps going like that. So that's all there is to that. If you can get your head around that and constantly remember that, then it makes it easy to work these things out chord by chord. But the method I suggest is learn all these shapes, save this JPEG, I'll put it in the comments down below, and then slowly but surely just change one voice from each set of chords to get the next set of chords. So here's C major 7, and then there's first inversion, so that's this one, and then with the 5th in the bass, second inversion, and then with the 7th in the bass, 3rd inversion, and then back to root position. So you're gonna have, there's octaves of these things. You can tell, like, that is the same voicing as that, but everything's up an octave. So you've got things an octave apart within this system as well. And it goes down low too. So this is kind of the center of your universe, the root position down here. And then there's 3rd inversion lower than that. So you can have 7th in the bass, and then you can have 5th in the bass. But you'll hear that one, second inversion here, is the same sound as this, but an octave apart. So you can hear by the top note, really. And this one, 3rd inversion, is the same as that one. And there's other ways to do this. It could keep going lower, and it can keep going higher. But eventually you'll start to see the shapes overlapping. There's a few voicings that I've left out, like the way they fall, like on the middle 4 strings or the bottom 4 strings that I've left out, but I think this is a good way to start, and I don't want to overload you with information if you're not used to this. But then systematically go through it, and so far maybe you're thinking this sounds really boring. It kind of is tedious, so make it more interesting for yourself, make it more musical. First thing that's like obviously a pain in the ass is the being able to just fret a chord like that straight away, being able to go from there to there. And a good way to like go easy on yourself a little bit is choose some sort of picking pattern, choose some sort of rhythmic thing where you start with just a bass note. So like some sort of Travis picking thing or something. Like I like this one. Maybe you can see why I like it for building up these voicing knowledge things. And it's that you're hitting a bass note first, and then the rest of the chord can be placed down while you're thinking about where it goes. So like you can go, yeah, you can hit that note before anything else happens. If you don't know this, then go check out a YouTube lesson on that. I'm pretty sure it's called Travis picking. But anything where you start with the bass will do, so like that sort of thing would do as well. Just try and make it rhythmic and interesting and musical for yourself so that you're not bored out of your mind when you practice. Yeah, try and do something like go all the way up through these ones. Come all the way back down. And then move on to the lower ones. And I'm kind of rushing it and talking at the same time, so I'm messing it up. But this is how you can make it a bit more interesting for yourself. And then start trying to do this. So take every voicing and think, where is the 7th? I'm going to turn all of these into dominant chords. So root position, root, 5th, 7th. I think this is why this diagram's good, because you can see exactly where the voices are, but try and actually think about it yourself. Root, 5th, 7th, 3rd. So it's the 3rd high, the 3rd lowest, 3rd lowest. So there's the 7th, and right enough a dominant chord should sound bluesy. And then find it with the next one. No, not root, 3rd, 7th. So the 7th is the 2nd voice. So put that down. You're going to need to rearrange a little bit. And then find it in the next one. 7th is up the top in the next one. And you'll know, your ears will tell you if you're used to the sound of these chords. If you're not used to the sound of these chords, then you probably need to spend a bit more time just on these chords, the basic voicings of these chords. So there's the dominant chord in 2nd inversion. And then it's the 7th in the bottom on the 3rd inversion. So it's that note there that's going to have to go down. And then you're back to root position. So instead of, it's the 3rd voice that moves down. And then work your way back down. So go from root position, it would be the 7th in the bass there, so move the bass down. And it would be the 7th up the top on the 2nd inversion, so move the top note down. And you start to notice things, especially if you're playing picking patterns, because for me, when I go down through this one, that really sounds like Nick Drake to me. the fifth and the bass and being so low in that region. I know he used like alternate tunings, but it's the same when you start to do the minor 7 one. You hear that Nick Drake thing. So try and just take stock of everything that comes out of this. Like if something sounds like something to you, then pursue it. So yeah, you will probably notice things about other music just from doing this, because it's in lots of music. Try and take stock of it and mess about with that, pursue it. And so yeah, then like slowly put together this picture. So you've got like major 7. I'll do all the root position ones. So major 7, move the 7 down, you get dominant 7. Move the 3rd down, you get minor 7. Move the 5th down, you get minor 7 flat 5. And then move the 7th down again, you get diminished 7. And then work your way back up. So move the 7th up, minor 7 flat 5. Move the 5th up, minor 7. Move the 3rd up, dominant 7th. And then move the 7th up, and you're back to major 7. And just set lots of exercises for yourself. Try and make it as musical as possible so that you don't get bored. Maybe a thing to do is take one of the voicings and use it as a loop thing so that you can practice. Use that as part of your practice every day. So take, let's say the minor one. We've not looked at the minor one. In fact, let's look at minor 7 flat 5 because it's fun. Maybe, yeah, I'll just do that then. So put that down as a loop. So all the voicings of minor 7 flat 5. This is assuming that you've been through this process and you've found these, but this is what will pop out. So. So yeah, now that you've got a loop like that, you could just start off with the sensible choice and play C half-diminished stuff or C Locrian material over the top of it. But if you want to extend your practice and you know things about, say, harmonic and melodic minor, then you could try things out like, it would make sense. Now, if you don't know too much about this, I will be doing some melodic minor lessons soon as well. And there's a few melodic minor lessons back in my video history. Check those out. But Lydian dominant, you could play Lydian dominant from the flat 6 of the C of the chords that you're playing. Because there's 2 half-diminished chords in melodic minor, and that's the one that should work over that, I think. Lydian dominant is like the Simpsons sound. So like Lydian with a flat 7, Lydian dominant. I'll start off with half-diminished and then I'll try all that Lydian dominant material, see how it sounds. getting pretty weird. And so on and so on. So yeah, that's how I would practice those and mess about with those. That's something I've never really tried before, is leading dominant against a half diminished like that. But you can hear it kind of works, and there'll be a context for composing and using that somehow. It's just a case of finding it. Anyway, that's inversions for you. Hopefully you got something from that. Take it slowly. Jump off from whatever point makes sense for you. If you still don't know how to find these chords just by changing one note, then it's probably a good idea to go back and check out my chord construction video. I'll stick a link down below. But once you've got a handle on that, once you know that you can change from major 7 to dominant 7 to minor 7 to minor 7 flat 5 to diminished 7, then start working your way through these. Make exercises, have fun. Okay, that's all from me for now. Thanks very much for watching. If you liked what you saw, hit the subscribe button, and I will see you next time. Thank you. Bye bye.